We don't intend to build this thing and then sell it to the highest bidder. We want to groom the next generation to carry the torch because it would just be the coolest thing for the founders' families to see that it's still here, that it's still going on.
Welcome to the Business Builder Way podcast, where we help business builders grow leadership skills and wisdom and stay grounded through hero stories. So let's get after it. With our members, the members of Business Builders, so that anybody who's considering joining can get to know who they'll be working with, hanging out with, learning from, growing with, and if anybody joins, to help them get to know you and the other members kind of by watching some videos before they come to a live event, etc. So could you share with us a bit about who you are and help people get to know you and why you're in our group and what you're building, and we'll just see where we go from there.
Sure. So I am 47 years old. I am a husband of 17 years. Right? The beginning of August was our anniversary, 17 years. And I am a father of 2 kids. I have a 13-year-old son, a 10-year-old daughter. And I am a lifelong heating and air conditioning person. My father was a heating and air conditioning guy. I worked with him always as a child, as a kid growing up. And so I decided to go to a vocational high school and learn the trade and get my certification in HVAC. And after I finished schooling and I graduated high school, I came to work here at Alliance Heating and Air Conditioning just about 29 years ago. I've held almost every position in the company throughout those 29 years. And back in 2020, another long tenured employee, Chuck, my partner, and I were offered the opportunity to buy the business, so we did. The Alliance has been in business for over 40 years. 1979, it became a company started by 2 guys who I had the pleasure to work with, both of them, before they retired and finished their careers. And the second generation of ownership was also a long tenured employee, not a family member, but like family. And he bought the company and I worked for him for years until he retired. And then Chuck and I got offered the opportunity. So here we are. It's a solid company, been in our market for many years. And we have many long tenured employees here. Chuck and I aren't even the longest employees in the company. There's another fellow who's been with us for over 30 years. And then we have many employees between 15, 20, and 25 years with the company. So I have a lot of family and friends within this Alliance community. And what we're building is a company where people can find a home, where people can come into our industry and into our business and feel like they found their forever employer, a place where they can be taken care of, where they can trust the company, where they can be fulfilled in their work, where they can have fun and meet good people, and where the company is looking out for the people and providing them a space where they can feel safe and confident that they'll have work. We're building a place that can be a cornerstone for a community, a company where people feel that it's a part of its community, and it's a place where people can not just start but end a career, where opportunities are endless, just like they were for me when I started with this company. It was just opportunity after opportunity. The company never looked outside for high-level positions. It's always just building its people and offering those opportunities as the company grew to the people that worked here at the company to grow with it. And we're just looking to continue that tradition and kind of really scale it out to something even larger than the previous owners and that the founders of the company ever thought was possible.
Nice. Yeah, in our group, you have a unique perspective in that you're not the first owner, you're not the founder, and you and your partner like bought the business, borrowed money to be able to do that. So it's certainly I think everybody's perspective adds to the group. We have founders, we have multi-generation family ownership in the group, and then we have one guy I can think of off the top of my head who built a business, sold it, and is now doing something else. But you're experience in that way is quite unique. What do you think has enabled that process to happen where key employees bought the business? Because that's not common, I wouldn't say. How do you think that has happened, and how will you then prepare to probably do the same thing down the road?
I believe that the founders of the company had that vision for the company. They didn't name the business after themselves. They named it Alliance Heating and Air Conditioning because when they came together, they were forming an alliance. They worked together at a previous company and they knew each other before they started this business. And I think that they saw the business as something separate from their personalities. They wanted to build a company and a business that could thrive beyond them. And I think that was a bit of their wisdom in not naming it after them or not using their initials, which is very standard in our industry. It's the last name, or it's this and sons, or this and brothers, or if it's two partners, it might be a combination of initials. They just said, we're forming an alliance, and how about we just call it Alliance? And so the name lends to going on beyond those founders. And so I think it was their intention. When Chuck and I were going through the process of buying the company, the founder of the company, who we're still very close with, had conversations with Chuck and I and with the previous owner that we were purchasing it from. He was very involved. He pushed himself into the negotiations and into the transition because he's very concerned about the company. And he loved the fact that Peter was carrying the tradition that they had established, that the founders had established, by keeping it in the company, keeping it in the family. And because of the years of tenure that we're selling it to, we're not selling it to a 1 or 2 year employee. Like, I was a child when I came to work here. I grew up here. And even though Chuck's a little older than me, in some sense, he was too. He was a single guy, like hadn't been married yet, hadn't had a family yet when he came to work here. So it's like we all kind of grew up together. So we are family. And the idea is that we keep it in the family. There's this Alliance family, this Alliance unit, and it's protected if it stays here. And so Chuck and I intend to, over the course of time, identify those players that are interested in carrying the tradition. That's really our intention. Founders' families to see that it's still here, that it's still going on. We lost one of our founders probably about a year ago, and the other one is aging to a point where, it won't be long. His son works for us and has for a long time. And it's just really a cool thing, and it means a lot to me. Number one, to be welcomed into this small, exclusive group of people, but also to have the opportunity to do for others what was done for me.
And your son, Kane Jr., has been working in the business a little bit. And so I don't, tell me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it, feel it, is he's working in the business. There is a chance that he could really get into it and really pursue this trade, and maybe someday he could be a buyer of the business. But it's also not, because of that kind of way that it's been transitioning and somebody's been buying the business, it's not like, oh, it's going to be bequeathed upon him or something. But it could happen. It would have to happen as though he came up through the ranks and he was the guy, right?
It would. And I think of the founders had sons, right? And obviously one of them still works here. The other founder had a son who's an HVAC guy, but doesn't work here. Is still working for another company. Joe's son, Joe, works here, but he wasn't, when Joe decided to retire, his son was the guy who worked here. He did what was best for Alliance. Alliance is bigger than this, just pass it off to my kid and that kind of thing. It is possible that Kane could choose this for his career path, and that would be great. And it would be a pleasure of my life to groom him and get him in position. But the company's bigger than that. It wouldn't be handed to him just because he's my son. I wouldn't do that. I see the company as something larger than that. But he's 13. He's probably come to work with me since he was, 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And when he's here, he takes great pride in the fact that this is my livelihood, that this is the place where I grew up. And he comes and he sweeps and he works and he separates parts and fittings and puts stuff away on the shelves and he cleans trucks. He just comes and works and he's proud to do it.
Hmm.
And it's fun for me to see that, to get him here. And the guys have gotten to know him since he was little, and they like having him around. It's cool. And at the age of 13, because of the way that I grew up, I'm certainly not a parent that's going to explain to my kids that college is the only way. I'm more interested in what are their interests, what do they want to pursue, and how can I help them pursue that, right? If it's college, great. If it's the military, great. If it's dad, I just want to finish high school and come to work with you, that's great too.
One of the things I know is really important to you, and you led with this when I said introduce yourself, it was family first was where you went. And I know that you've expressed one of the reasons that you're in Business Builders in the group is because we're not a fatherhood group, sort of, right? It's business builders, but there's a real like honoring of family and marriage, and we talk about those things as well. So you are intentional dad. So it's good to talk about your son a little bit. And I'm just curious, I actually don't really know. I haven't heard. How about your daughter? Is she interested in it? And has she been around and in the shop? And
She comes in and she doesn't share the same passion for work and contribution the way that my son does. When he comes in, it's not a visit for him. Like he comes here, he wants to get his hands on something. He's dying to do work that's not safe for him to do yet. And even at home, working around the house, he's always getting into projects with me, things that we're doing. My daughter's a little more aloof, but she enjoys spending time here. She enjoys coming here and sitting in people's offices and spending time with them. But for her, it's more of a social event than a work event. She's a little bit younger and a girl. Maybe that contributes to it a little bit, but she'll come in and spend time in Joe Ellen's office or spend time with the bookkeepers. She makes her way around the campus and speaks to as many people as she can. So she's familiar with the place and with the people as well. And that it's important to me to be able to bring them here when there's opportunity to get them familiar with where I go to work and what I'm doing. And what attracted me to you and to the Business Builders is that we're all family people. And we speak of it. It's a great source of pride for all of us. Our families are such a piece of what we're building.
Yeah.
Right. And we know that to be true, right? The partners that we choose everywhere, like, Jill being my partner is a big piece of me being able to achieve what I've achieved in my career because she never competed with it. She never competed with my drive work to achieve. And then the partners that I have outside, you and the rest of the builders. I mean, it's supporting both pieces of what I'm doing, my drive to be an intentional husband and father and to be a business builder. We're all building businesses. We're all working on our careers, but we're building ourselves. And that's where the power of this community comes in, is because whatever any one of us needs from the group, like we can bring it with whatever we're struggling with. It's not just, it doesn't just drill into the dollars and the cents and the work and the money and the fine. That's a big piece of it because we're all learning and growing that. But there's such the human part and who we're becoming in the process. That's the most attractive part to this group of people.
Yeah, I love being part. I get to lead and help create this community. And I'm also part of another community where I can be a member as opposed to the one putting it together. And in my group, I'm seeking some of those same things where business, and I also just am in this environment of smart people who are intentionally working to create their life. And just yesterday, I had a conversation with somebody about his rental real estate, that he's done rentals, midterm rentals, long-term rentals, kind of rich dad, poor dad, Robert Kiyosaki type stuff. And I'm talking about how I'm considering doing Airbnb type rentals here on the farm. It's just being in an environment where people think that way and do growth and read books. And like, I want that. And you're one of those people. and as are these other folks in the world. And I remember that we read that book about the family board meeting by Jim Shields, and it had to do with intentionally creating time with our kids and alongside the business.
It is. And I've shared that book. I sent a book to a friend of mine who lives in Massachusetts. Very much an intentional father, like I am trying to be. And Jill and I have shared that book with multiple people. It's a quick read. It's such a common sense, like, oh my gosh, like carving out time for these little people to solidify this relationship that, there's hope, right? Hope isn't really a strategy. We can hope that we built a relationship with them while we have the time to build it so that it carries on into perpetuity as they grow into adults and build their own lives. We hope that we can remain a part of that. Or we can just be real intentional about solidifying our relationship now and know that when they're building their own life, that we did make a bond and a relationship with them that will continue. We know that we intentionally did everything that we could do.
Right. Did everything we do, and we totally screw up. At least I do. Right. Good. Okay, you laughed and you're with me.
Regularly.
And that's the thing that we do here too. As leaders of a company, as creators, we make mistakes. We talk openly about the bad thoughts that creep in sometimes, like I'm not good enough. Who am I? How dare I to do that? And that's the same thing over on the family side. So being intentional doesn't mean like I got it together all the time and it's always right. It just means I'm trying, I'm working at it.
Right. Yeah. It just means I'm conscious of it. I'm conscious of who I am and who I intend to be in the world. The idea of a created life versus the defaulted life, the life that just happens and I just go along with it and say, well, that's just life. Right. Or it's created. What was great on vacation last week, I sat around with a group of grown adults, intentional parents and spouses. We kind of had a small conversation around that. We're here on this beach, 6 families. It's all my wife's college roommates, from
it's great.
More than 20 years ago. We get together every summer and we do this thing. Our children have all grown up together. They're like cousins that see each other once or twice a year. And they can't wait to get there and spend a week with each other. The adults are with each other and we come together as a group a couple times a day. We schedule games to play so that all 21 of us are together for an hour, and versus doing our own things. We talked about how intentional that's been, right? For 20 plus years to hold that time every summer sacred. And it's because of that intention. It's because we've decided that we're going to create this life. It's never going to get to the point where, well, we just don't have time for it this year, or this came up or that came up, right? We're very intentional about maintaining that relationship and teaching our children the value of maintaining such relationships.
I love that. That could be a whole, like, we could create a whole podcast about how do you stay in touch with a group like that, right? But what I hear in that is you're having fun, and there's some of that fun time can be, you make sure we're together to play a game, and fun time just like hanging out on the beach. Like we're not being serious all the time. And then there's also this time where you could get together and talk intentionally about what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's a really cool mix. Like if we do nothing but be all serious and have, oh boy, I find that with my kids. If I'm like serious and want to have the deep dad's a coach conversations all the time, like that's a no-go. That can be sprinkled in here and there. And then some of the rest of the time, like, it's just like, be humans and live life and have fun. Right.
Sure.
Hey, two questions to take us out. Can you just paint a bit of a visual picture for, and I know because I've been there, so I can see it, right? Alliance as it exists now, it's buildings, it's vehicles, it's tools, it's a shop, it's people. But can you like kind of paint a picture of what is your business?
Our business is a full engineering, construction, installation, service, and maintenance heating and air conditioning company, commercial and residential. We've got near 70 employees. We've got about 40 trucks on the road rolling every day in our market. We've got a sales team. We've got bookkeeping. We've got managers. We've got a fabrication shop where we custom fabricate all of our own ductwork. And we've got clients that have been with us since the beginning and we're taking care of their children now. And we installed their systems 30 years ago, and we've replaced them twice since. And it's a team. And like any team and any family, it's dysfunctional at times. We're all bringing our individual personalities and our individual talents to work. But overwhelmingly, we have one passion, and that is to serve each other and to serve this company. And in doing that, our customers get to feel the rewards of a group of people that come together to make Alliance a better version of itself every day.
It reminds me, one of the things we've worked on over the last year or so, one of the things that you're doing in camp is, when I heard you say 70 employees, 40 trucks rolling every day, engineering, all this, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot. Like, it has gotten to be quite a bit more than what those two people, when they started the Alliance, had going on. And therefore, the responsibility as a co-owner is much greater. And one of the things I know you've worked on really hard is to, and this is a tool of a business builder, and you didn't go to school to learn this. As you said, you went through the business learning to be a technician, but you worked very hard at understanding financials and where the money flows, where it goes, almost like we've got Captain Steve Curian has a boat that has a rudder and a wheel, and you're learning to use financials as kind of a rudder and a wheel and know where you're headed and compass and all those things, right?
I used to say, before I went on this path of understanding the financials, I used to say I'm not a numbers guy, and I'm still not a numbers guy. Math is not my thing, but the numbers tell a story. And as a business owner, it's a responsibility to know your numbers and know not what the right numbers or the wrong numbers are, but to know how your business behaves and know when the numbers tell you that it's going in a good direction or a bad direction. And the numbers only add to your ability to make sound decisions. There's gut, there's experience, and then there's data. I think to be a responsible leader of a business, you've got to understand how to play with all three of those.
It's great. This has been wonderful spending this time with you. And I think anybody watching this will be really helpful in lots of ways. Okay, so you're on your way out, and there's people out there like you building businesses. Any advice to them? Anything you'd share as we depart here?
My greatest piece of advice at the moment for a leader in a business, whether it be the founder, whether it be a high-level manager or somebody with ambition to grow bigger with their operation, is to get to know the people on your team, to get to really know them and what are their ambitions, and understand your role in helping them achieve that, and make sure they know that you're on their team. As the business owner and the business leader, they think that you're against them. They're there to make you money. And yeah, write it down on a piece of paper. Employees are here to make money for the company, which makes money for me. Your responsibility as their leader is to help them achieve what they want first. They have to know that you're in their corner, and that's hard work. It's more than just saying that you're in their corner. You have to actually be in their corner. So get to know your people, get to know their wants and their needs and their desires, and then let them know that you're there to help them get there.
That's great. Thanks, Kane.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you for tuning into the Business Builder Way podcast. If this episode spoke to you, click that subscribe button and share it with a friend. That's how this message gets out into the world. If it is helpful for us to have a short conversation, I'd love to do that. Send me an email at wayne@businessbuildercamp.com.